that time there came to Jesus a man named Jairus, who was a ruler of the synagogue. And falling at Jesus' feet, he besought him to come to his house. For he had an only daughter, about 12 years of age, and she was dying. As Jesus went, the people pressed round him, and a woman who had had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had spent all her living on physicians, could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him, and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her flow of blood ceased. And Jesus said, "Who was it that touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the multitudes are around you, pressing upon you, and you say, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I perceive that power has gone forth from me." And when the woman saw that she was not hidden, she came trembling and falling down before him, declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him, and how she had been immediately healed. And Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." While Jesus was speaking, a man from the ruler's house came and said, "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher anymore." But Jesus, on hearing this, answered him, "Do not fear, only believe, and she shall be well." And when Jesus came to the house, he permitted no one to enter with him, except Peter and James and John, and the father and mother of the child. And all were weeping and bewailing her. But Jesus said, "Do not weep, for she is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But taking her by the hand, Jesus called, saying, "Child, arise." And her spirit returned, and she got up at once. And Jesus directed that something should be given to her to eat. And her parents were amazed, but he charged them to tell no one what had happened.
Glory to Jesus Christ.
Glory forever.
They say that life happens while you're making plans. The popular adage goes that it happens in the in-betweens. It's the journey, not the destinations. Today we have a miracle on the way to a miracle. Christ is about to raise Tabitha, or Jairus' daughter, from the dead. She lies dead asleep, quite literally. And Christ is walking with her father, the ruler of the synagogue of Nazareth. The crowd is pressing in on him. Every single person wants something, their own miracles. And in this very human experience of a throng, of pushing through a crowd, trying to get somewhere, trying to get Tabitha, someone touches Christ. Now remember, many probably may have touched him, but this woman touches him. And remember, there's a throng, and this contact would be completely lost to history. But Christ draws attention to it. He stops and he calls up this woman. Gives an example of her faith. No one is expecting or looking for a miracle at this one moment. This is the definition of the in-betweens. Many want to be there for him to raise the dead. Wow, he's going to go raise this daughter. A few want his attention for their own needs, but literally everyone misses the miracle right in front of them. Even the disciples who have seen the amazing miracles by this man are incredulous. What do you mean you touched me? You're covered by people. We want the signs. We all have our visions of our goals, our miracle we are waiting for, our source of our hope. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for many of us, we are in our cross, not the moment of resurrection. But brothers and sisters, it's that in-between where the true miracle can happen. Maybe something can happen. Father Thomas Hopko once told me that the highlight of his life, and he kind of learned this from his father-in-law, the theologian, Father Alexander Schmemann, was the in-betweens. I would love to walk to church, he would say. Being in the church after setting up and waiting for that service to start. Those were the moments I met God. The moments I truly lived. The moments where I wasn't trying to be something or do something. I just lived. We have two modern saints we are celebrating today. The icons here are on the dais. Saint Nektarios of Agina and Saint Olga of Kwiflik, Alaska. I think it's interesting because in a world of big names and celebrities, of ranks and hierarchies and taxes, you have two people relatively unknown in their lifetimes. We have declared saints, people that the world has virtually forgot, that have written off, outside, relatively unknown completely in their lifetimes, outside of a few dedicated individuals that proclaim them to us. We don't even know how to handle this celebration. Both actually died yesterday, which overlaps with the major feast of the Snacks at the Bodiless Host, hence a delay. They are still debating what date we should celebrate St. Olga on. St. Nektarios was born in a remote village, to a penniless family. After moving to the big city and to work, to support himself, and going to seminary, he became a deacon in the Patriarchate of Alexandria, becoming the personal deacon of the Patriarch. His holiness impressed him, and he was ordained a priest and then a bishop, with many believing him to be the successor of the Patriarch. This leads him to be slandered by other bishops, and to be suspended, a suspension that's actually never lifted to his death, until posthumously, 78 years later during his canonization. He spends his life in exile in Greece, unable to actually serve without permission. As an internet preacher, the head of the seminary eventually, and then a spiritual director of a women's convent that he helps revitalize and found. When they dig up his body, a common thing in Eastern Europe, you actually don't stay in a grave for more than 20 years generally. He's found to be incorrupt, and the bishop can't believe it. He actually orders his body to be exposed to the sun and the rain for a week, and then to be reburied to try to decompose it. They can't believe the miracles that start accumulating beside this incorrupt body, including one of the former members of our parish, actually the sister of one of the members of our parish, who had her carpal tunnel, or actually kind of an injury much like carpal tunnel, healed by him at his bedside. For drawing him, she was actually an architect, and enabled her to continue her studies. St. Olga was an indigenous woman in a 900-person village, thousands of kilometers from any civilization in what's called Kwiflik, Alaska. Look at it. It's pretty much as far west as you can get in North America. And she lived a traditional life as a midwife with her priest husband. Never visited the lower 48. Never wrote any books. Was never known for her writings. If it wasn't for Michael Oleska, a teacher who came to teach in Alaska, who recognized her holiness while researching for the book that would become his thesis, we wouldn't know who she is. The village liked her, but many wondered aloud at her consecration. But what about my aunt? Wasn't she as holy? There was something there that they saw in her holiness, though, in her life and her death. The miracles started racking up. She was seen in visions and dreams among this continent, among women suffering miscarriages and abuse. My point is this. These two are canonized for their holiness of the in-betweens, not the eventual holiness or glory that they entered into. It's not this eventual holiness that I'm wishing I get to either, that is going to lead to my holiness. The encounter of the burning bush that I hope to have. The lottery I'm still waiting to win, and I kind of need to enter. The giant evangelical ministry I'm yet to found. The perfect job and house in the country where I can finally exercise and pray and be normal. St. Olga and St. Nektarios are the people that are just trying to be holy in their day-to-day life, the life that's been given them. If anything, it's holiness of cleaning, It's the holiness of sowing. And, if anything, this is holiness that the world doesn't see anything about. People could walk by these people and not notice the holiness. They are the beautiful failures, according to our world. And I kind of hope that I can be a beautiful failure like them. Will I make those plans? Maybe I can just be there in the in-betweens and live like them with Christ. I don't need the dead raised, just a flow of blood healed in a crowd. We hear in St. Paul's letter to the Galatians, instead of glorying in circumcision, that is the outward sign of the faith, or glorifying in all the glory of the resurrection and acts that St. Paul does, he glorifies in the cross of Christ, that is suffering. So instead of worrying about my next victory, I'm going to glory in the daily struggle, my glories, my own daily crucifying of my flesh, of my passions, of my ego, of my co-suffering with others, and conforming myself to Christ. Maybe that daily mundane struggle I can find some glory. Maybe even a miracle. That is what I would glorify. And there is something so attainable that a woman sewing alone in a small 10 by 10 foot cabin, preparing a meal, preparing salmon, or an exiled bishop who was helping clean his convent, who was never allowed to serve, would be an example of holiness to imitate. And maybe my mundane life with all of its problems and suffering, it just may be a beautiful failure. Worthy of remembrance by us, gathered around this table of offering, not just by God who knows each of us by our hairs of our head, but by all of us. Maybe by the grace of God. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.